Ladies and gentlemen, how often have you found yourself bending over backward to be nice, only to be met with entitlement, manipulation, or complete disregard? You offer kindness, respect, and patience, believing it will be reciprocated, yet, time and time again, you're left drained, unappreciated, and even disrespected. Here's the truth. Being overly nice to the wrong people doesn't make them appreciate you. It feeds their ego. It emboldens them to take more, demand more, and give nothing in return. Why? Because when you always say yes, when you always put others first, they assume that's your role, your obligation. But today that ends. Today you take your power back. Taking your power back isn't about becoming cold or ruthless. It's about recognizing your worth and setting boundaries that protect your energy, your time, and your well-being. It's about understanding that being kind and being a pushover are not the same thing. You can be respectful without being taken advantage of. You can be understanding without being manipulated. And you can be generous without allowing others to exploit you. From this moment forward, let go of the fear of disappointing others. Let go of the guilt of saying no. Let go of the belief that being liked is more important than being respected. Because when you respect yourself, the right people will follow suit. And those who only valued you for what they could take, let them go. Your peace, your power, and your self-worth are far too precious to be sacrificed on the altar of someone else's ego. Being overly nice to the wrong people empowers them to take advantage of you in ways you may not even realize at first. It starts subtly with small requests that seem harmless. Maybe they ask for a favor and you agree without hesitation because you want to be helpful. Over time, those favors become expectations. The gratitude you once received turns into entitlement, and before you know it, you're caught in a cycle where giving is no longer an act of kindness. It's an obligation. When you constantly prioritize other people's needs over your own, it sends a message that your time, energy, and resources are secondary to theirs. This isn't about being selfless, it's about being seen as someone who exists to serve others. People who thrive on taking advantage of others recognize this and exploit it to their benefit. They know you struggle to say no. They count on your reluctance to set boundaries. They manipulate your fear of being seen as unkind or uncooperative, using it to ensure you continue bending to their will. The problem is that people who take advantage of kindness don't feel grateful or indebted. They feel powerful. Your willingness to accommodate them reinforces their belief that they deserve special treatment. The more you give, the more they expect. They don't stop to consider your feelings, your well-being, or your limits. And why would they if you're always saying yes, always making sacrifices, and always putting them first? What reason do they have to believe that you matter just as much as they do? This dynamic creates a power imbalance where one person benefits while the other becomes emotionally and mentally exhausted. Over time, resentment builds. You start feeling frustrated, unseen, and unappreciated. Yet you continue to say yes, because that's the rule you've come to accept. You tell yourself that if you stop, if you pull back, if you finally say no, you'll be viewed as selfish or mean. The irony is that the people who benefit from your kindness are the very ones who will make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. They may accuse you of changing. They may say you're acting differently, or that you're no longer the person they once knew. But what they really mean is that you're no longer as easy to manipulate. You're no longer as willing to be walked all over. And instead of taking responsibility for how they treated you, they shift the blame onto you for refusing to continue playing their game. What makes this even more damaging is that the longer you allow yourself to be used, the harder it becomes to break free. You start internalizing the belief that your worth is tied to what you can do for others. You equate being liked with being accommodating. You fear that if you stop giving, people will abandon you. And the truth is, some will. But those are the people who were never really in your corner to begin with. Kindness is often seen as one of the most admirable qualities a person can possess. It fosters connection, builds trust, and creates a sense of warmth in relationships. But when kindness comes at the expense of your self-respect and well-being, it ceases to be a virtue and becomes a burden. Too often people mistake kindness for self-sacrifice, believing that in order to be a good person, they must always put others before themselves. Even when it harms them, this mindset is dangerous because it teaches you to devalue yourself in the name of making others comfortable. When you constantly prioritize the needs of others at the cost of your own, you send a message to yourself and to those around you that your feelings, desires, and limits don't matter. People who recognize this will take advantage, knowingly or unknowingly. They will continue to ask for more because they see that you never push back. What starts as small compromises turns into a pattern of overextending yourself, where you suppress your own discomfort. You tell yourself that it's fine, that you don't mind, that you can handle it. But deep down, the exhaustion grows. Over time, this imbalance wears on your self-respect. When you repeatedly say yes when you want to say no, when you stay silent when you should speak up, when you allow others to dismiss your needs, you slowly chip away at your own dignity. You start to question whether your feelings are valid, whether you deserve the same kindness you give so freely. You may even begin to resent the people you once felt compelled to help, not because they are inherently bad, but because you realize that your generosity has become an expectation rather than a choice. Your well-being suffers just as much. The emotional toll of constantly giving without receiving can lead to burnout, anxiety, and even a sense of worthlessness. You might feel like no matter how much you do, it's never enough. You might feel like people only appreciate you for what you can offer, not for who you truly are. And worst of all, you may come to believe that if you stop being the person who always says yes, you will lose the relationships you work so hard to maintain. Setting boundaries is essential to maintaining your power and self-worth, because without them, you become vulnerable to being taken advantage of, manipulated, or emotionally drained by those who do not respect your limits. Boundaries are not about shutting people out or being harsh. They are about protecting your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being. They allow you to engage with others in a way that is healthy and sustainable, rather than in a way that leaves you feeling exhausted, resentful, or invisible. When you fail to set boundaries, people assume they can dictate how you spend your time, how much effort you put into them, and even how you should feel. You may find yourself saying yes to things you don't want to do, agreeing to plans that inconvenience you, or tolerating behavior that makes you uncomfortable, simply because you feel obligated. The more you allow these small violations, the more they escalate. You might begin to feel that your own needs are secondary, that your desires don't matter as much as keeping the peace or making sure others are happy. But the truth is, people who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries, while those who only benefit from your lack of them will resist and push back. Boundaries reinforce self-worth because they send a clear message that your needs, emotions, and limits are just as important as anyone else's. When you set and enforce boundaries, you affirm to yourself and to others that you deserve respect. It is an act of self-love to say, this is what I will and will not tolerate. Without boundaries, you may find yourself constantly overextending, giving without receiving, and allowing people to drain you emotionally. Over time, this erodes your sense of self, making you feel like your only value comes from what you can do for others, rather than who you are as a person. Maintaining your power means recognizing when to step back, when to say no, and when to demand better treatment. It is not about being aggressive or unkind. It is about being firm in protecting what matters to you. Some people will try to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries because they benefited from you not having any. They will call you selfish, accuse you of changing, or try to manipulate you into reverting back to your old ways. But the reality is, people who respect you will respect your boundaries. Those who don't were only ever interested in what they could take from you. The discomfort of enforcing boundaries is temporary, but the damage of not having them can last a lifetime. If you continue to allow others to overstep, to demand more than you are willing to give, and to ignore your needs, you will find yourself in relationships, whether personal, professional, or social, where you are valued only for your compliance, not for who you are. That is why boundaries are not just important, they are necessary. They teach others how to treat you, they give you control over your own life, and they ensure that your kindness and generosity are never mistaken for weakness. Reclaiming your power starts the moment you decide that your self-worth is not negotiable. It starts when you realize that you do not have to justify your need for space, respect, or fairness. The people who truly value you will adjust, and those who do not were never meant to have access to you in the first place. The people who truly care about you will not leave just because you start valuing yourself. They will not punish you for setting boundaries or for prioritizing your own needs. Instead, they will support your growth, respect your decisions, and appreciate you for more than just what you can offer. These are the people you should surround yourself with, the ones who see your worth without you having to prove it over and over again. Taking your power back is about more than just saying no or distancing yourself from toxic relationships. It is about changing the way you see yourself. It is about understanding that you do not have to earn love or respect by constantly giving. You are valuable simply by being yourself, and those who deserve to be in your life will recognize that. The moment you stop seeking validation from those who do not respect you, you will attract people who do. And that is when you truly reclaim your power.